Have you ever been betrayed by a stranger, which because of his decision, you almost experienced your life being lost? Well, I once walked a pilgrimage called the Camino de Santiago. It's a 500-mile stretch, or 773 kilometers to be exact. And on day one, while crossing the Pyrenees, a stranger left me on top of the mountain in that exact experience.
Oh Lord, I'm really gonna need you tonight. It's gonna be very cold and very lonely, a little scary.
Now, I'm here to share this story with you because from that experience, I actually learned a life hack, something that I think anyone who applies to their life will be able to accomplish anything that they set their mind on. And it is because of this life hack that I was able to walk all 500 miles in 24 days. Now that is much faster than the average person. The average person does this pilgrimage in 35. Now I didn't intend from day one to walk the entire pilgrimage in 24, but because of this traumatic moment, but because the life hack that I learned, I was able to really lock in and commit myself to my goal. This technique actually is called reframing, and it is a technique not invented by, but explained thoroughly from a Harvard professor named Kevin Majors. I'll actually share his link to his channel and videos in the description so you can check it out there. I'm also sharing with you the original video from this pilgrimage in the link below, so you can check out both of them afterwards. But in this pilgrimage, let me begin from the beginning. So I took a plane to Paris from my hometown in Orange County, California. And from Paris, I took a train down to a town called Leon. From there, I had to take a taxi to the first town of the pilgrimage called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. Now, from Saint-Jean, you register, you get your passport for all your pilgrimage stops where you get your stamps. And then you begin your 500 miles. Now, when I arrived at this first stop to register, I met this really neat guy. His name is Simone, and he explained to me, no matter what I do, I have to cross the Pyrenees. Not going around it, but walking over.
You should take this when the weather's not that good. But they do say that this is perhaps one of the most beautiful experiences you get on the Santiago Camino. So it's my first time. You only live once. I'm gonna have to go the highway.
Now, because the train I took, unfortunately, the conductor is part of a union that went on strike. I began that day a couple hours late. And also, when I bought my ticket to do this pilgrimage from California all the way there, I scheduled it for 28 days rather than the full 35 because I had to get back for a retreat that I was leading for my church. Now, that said, I felt the pressure that I had to start day one. I didn't have any time to lose. And so, in a certain sense, out of panic, I just started walking up the Pyrenees. Now, that's the foolish review, right? Like in hindsight, everything, we see it in 2020. But in my naivete at the time, being a young man right out of college, I thought I can do this. YOLO, right? Because you really only live once. So I began this hike, and mind you, in the beginning, it was rainbows and butterflies. I was so happy, so grateful. You know, I, at this point, just finished applying to the seminary. I just finished my final interviews, and this was my so-called rite of passage before entering the seminary. So I thought to myself, man, I've given my life to God like this. This is going to be an awesome experience, smooth sailing. But as I kept walking up the mountain, the weather, you know, started to become more and more inclement, meaning it started raining, the fog was becoming more dense, and I could barely see in front of me. And when I reached the top, there's this cross, and the wind is picking up, and it's just howling. It was probably maybe like 25, 30 miles an hour. It was pretty strong. And at that point, I thought to myself, well, I better hurry, because even if I rush, you know, knowing where I'm going, the sun's gonna set. And if I don't get close to the town, I'm not gonna make it before sundown. I'm gonna have to walk around with a headlamp, which I did prepare. But when I got to the top, right, let's say this is the top of the summit, instead of walking forward, I was actually supposed to turn and walk in a different direction. But no matter how much I checked my map, I thought I was going the right way when I actually wasn't. Now, having gotten lost, I just thought to myself, I need to just get down the mountain and find a place, look at the map, find a visual point of reference, and then rework it, right? And find the path, and I'll be fine. Now, after 4 hours, then 5 hours having passed, the sun is about to set, and I'm starting to panic a little. I'm praying to God to help me, and in the distance, I see a truck of a local who's coming down. And finally, I think to myself, wow, another human being. Because ever since I started hiking up the mountain, I didn't see another soul in sight. Now, I waved this man down with all the hope that I'm going to sleep in a nice warm bed that night in the next town. And I show him my map and I say, I need to go to this town called Ronchevalle. And he understands. And he looks at his wife and they agree. And he opens the back of his truck. You know, it's like a hatchback. And so I see in there this wet dog and his big pile of manure. And he just points to this little space where I can like squat and hold my position, right? So I get in this truck and there I am squatting right next to this wet dog who's just like staring at me blank faced, like, who are you? And we're trucking back up the hill and I'm thinking to myself, wait, why are we going up? Because this isn't the way to the next town. We're actually going backwards, right? Because mind you, I'm going up this way and we're going back down. And we eventually reached the very summit where I saw that cross. The man stops his truck. He gets out, opens the trunk and helps me out. Then he points off into the distance and he says, go. Now again, the sun it's already half set. This is now magic hour, right? No shadows. The rain is picking up even more. The wind is just as strong. I'm scared. I literally thought that this man is sending me off on a death sentence. So now I'm panicking. I take out my wallet and I show him everything I have. It's probably like maybe 130 euro. I said, sir, please, I'll give this to you. I need to get to the next town. And he's like, nope, go. I'm thinking, are you crazy? Like, where's your heart? Are you seriously leaving me to go? He goes, hold on. And he walks over to his car and he looks like he's going to deliberate with his wife. But before I know it, he closes the door, starts his engine, and speeds off. He doesn't even make eye contact. In that moment, now, I don't want to scandalize anyone, but for the sake of being honest, I was so upset, and I actually said some choice words to our Lord, which I, of course, had to confess later. I've never been so mad in my life to feel like I was actually betrayed by a stranger.
Okay, so I found this path. I believe that it's the path that the man was driving on. So I figure if I take this path all the way back, it will lead me back to the beginning where I was about a kilometer away from Ranche, whatever it is. Sorry, I'm so tired, I can't even think right now.
Stopped and I thought to myself, okay, Daniel, relax. What do you need to do to survive? And first I thought to myself, well, there's a good chance I'm actually not going to make it. So I took out my camera and I actually recorded a video explaining what happened in case this would be my last. I'm sorry to be dramatic, but I mean, literally I was afraid, this would be terrible if someone found me dead on top of the mountain without a fair story for me to explain the injustice that I experienced. So after having made that recording, I kind of turned into survival mode and this huge adrenaline got me moving. I thought first, what would Bear Grylls do? He would first find a place to stay warm. So I immediately walked back down the mountain, not caring about any trails. I just walked down for the sake of staying warm. And I thought to myself, I have to find a place to sleep because, it's getting close to midnight. And when I reached, a safe elevation where it's not as windy and as dense, still raining, mind you, on this trail, there's a left and a right side. Now on the left side, there's dense forest. And I thought to myself, well, if I stay there, I can stay warm. But I remember actually when I was walking up the mountain initially, I saw a half-eaten cow where the stomach and all the insides were just completely gutted. And I thought to myself, that could have been a bear, that could have been a wolf. I have no idea what lives in these mountains. So I didn't want to take my chances. Whereas if I were to go on the right side of the trail, I would have to sleep out on the prairie, get rained on, but all you have there are cows and cow chips. So I took my chances.
This is where I slept last night. Right here. I was very mad at first because I just couldn't understand how human beings would treat one another in this way.
Right. But then I thought to myself, Daniel, thinking negatively it's not gonna help anything. So from that point, I said, why don't I just let go of everything and just put everything into God's hands? And so I asked God to give me the strength to be merciful. And then I practiced forgiving. I forgave myself. I forgave this man and his wife that drove off. And I must say it was actually really hard. But this was the moment of my conversion.
I tried looking for the hostel, but I couldn't find it, And I realized at one point that using this at night, it'll be impossible to find anything because it's a spotlight. So I decided I had no other choice but to try and get some rest. It was freezing cold. And all day yesterday I was trying to really reflect on myself during this Camino.
From that moment, I learned, without, the actual words, I learned the technique of reframing, which is the whole point of this video, this life hack. Because from that moment, from the most negative scenario that I can possibly surround myself in, I dug deep and was able to find a positive outlook. And from that, I thought to myself, there must be a sliver of goodness in that man's heart. I mean, even if he left me there on top of the mountain as the sun was setting, there must be a reason why he pointed into the direction. That's the only thing I have to be hopeful for. So I need to trust it.
There's no point in trying to get mad or to judge or anything, because in the end, I just pray that God has mercy on him and he realizes, hopefully someday, like, the consequences of his actions on other people, because I took a beating last night trying to sleep here. But anyway, I woke up this morning and I looked up into the sky and I saw one star, which was amazing because I didn't see any stars yesterday. And I was just telling God, like, thank you for letting me see this star, because I realized how beautiful nature is over here and how I really need to thank him for that. And after I said that, all of a sudden the clouds just cleared out and I just saw a huge sky full of stars. Like,
It was unbelievable. It's like that one scene in The Lion King where Timon and Pumbaa, they're there and, they see like all the stars in the night sky and they're like, wow, it's like those gas balls, this and that. I was so elated and I thanked the Lord. And then I made my way back up the mountain because I couldn't sleep. It was already 3:30 in the morning. And I made my way to the top. And because it was no longer raining, I saw that the man was right. Having pointed in a certain direction, basically, when you walk up this way, you have to turn 160 degrees to look behind you and walk in a V form. So like this. It's basically a switchback. And having found that path, I was able to walk down it that next day, extremely hungry, and really, but hopeful that I could get to the next town, and I did. So that was a huge victory. And after that experience, I applied this reframing to the rest of my entire Camino experience. And I must tell you that it is from applying this technique that I was able to do the following 472 miles in the remaining 22 days. It's pretty unbelievable. But what happened was, after those first 2 days, like I said, I didn't do any prior hiking. I had no experience. In my foolishness, I didn't even have trekking poles. And I grew tendinitis, or actually I initially had shin splints. And it was incredibly painful. But afterwards, leaving the next town, I met this young fellow from Germany. His name is Stefan. And we walked together for some time and he offered me some ibuprofen. We call it vitamin I. And after taking some of that, because I was in so much pain, I actually was crying, like tears are falling down my face because I couldn't stand the pain. But the pain over 15 minutes went away and I was able to move my legs again. Now, mind you, this is like so painful. I can't share, the pain factor with anyone, but I usually have a high pain tolerance, but I couldn't walk. But along with this friend's encouragement and with the antibiotics, I was able to go day after day, just one town to the next. I must say there was another moment when I was so defeated because when I left Zubiri, I saw a sign that showed Santiago de Compostela, and it shows how many kilometers you have left. And I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it says something like 720 or 730 kilometers. And I was so defeated because I thought, my legs are on fire. My shins they feel like they're broken, and I barely made a dent in this entire pilgrimage. But because of the reframing, along with this friend saying we can go as slow as we need, I was able to make it to the next town that evening. And after that, town after town, I was able to get my wings again. And little by little, I was able to walk a little bit further and longer day by day, to a point where when I reached Logroño and Burgos, all the way to Sagahun and León, I was starting to walk 45, 48, 52, and at one point even 55 kilometers. I almost want to say I caught the walking bug, almost like an addiction. But I was so enthused with the idea that I can keep moving and to ask myself, what is my potential? So I ended up walking all day for the rest of the trip. But I must say that it all comes back to this technique of reframing. Now, because I was able to see in every negative situation, when I caught myself, a positive outlook. What is the opportunity here? And because of that, I was able to finish gung-ho, and I was able to get into Santiago de Compostela to experience the final mass, with the swinging of the thurible, the gigantic thurible, and then continue on even another 120 kilometers to Murcia and Finisterre and back to Santiago de Compostela the following 4 days for a total of 28 days. But it was an incredible experience that ultimately taught me the tools to face my potential, to understand my limits and my weaknesses, and to overcome them. To finish this, I want to end with one more story, which was the moment that I experienced the final victory. So when you get to Finisterre, you reach what's called the end of the world. Fini, right? End. Stead, like terre, world. And so the legend is that St. James the Apostle, or the Greater, arrived and he looked out at the Atlantic and he said, this is the end of the world. So the legend holds that when you get there, as a pilgrim, you're supposed to burn something from your entire journey out of tribute to having reached the end. And I was able to share that moment with another friend that I met on the Camino. And this is forever going to be cherished in my mind, in my life. I'm very grateful for God having helped me to persevere, but also for experiencing this self-discovery through the reframing. I hope that you're able to apply this technique in your life, on your journey, and maybe on your next pilgrimage as well. Whatever opportunity you have when you're tempted to complain, see it as an opportunity to seek out the positive outlook, to see the moment and to challenge yourself to grow. I hope that you found this helpful. Don't hesitate to hit the subscribe button to follow me and to like this, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, take care.